It is week 16 and we're in holiday season. It's the end of the year. Things are going really well. I'm in one of the best places I've ever been in. And yet, the last few days, I have felt myself wanting to question everything. So, you know what I'm going to say here. Time to celebrate that feeling. Every journey starts with a choice, and mine is a bet. For 1 year, I'm gambling on energy over strategy. No more forcing and no pushing. Just the courage to show up and see what happens when reality becomes my playground. This isn't a podcast. It's a real-time experiment in the lab of my life. Welcome to the bet. What needs to be said this week? I am noticing that things are going really, really well. There's not a lot of friction in my life right now. And when things are going really well, something that I see happening, little trend that tends to pop up, is that I start to look for ways to make things more complex. So right now, I'm in a period where my business has never been simpler. In the last 3.5 years that I've been running it, I have streamlined the way I operate to focus primarily on one-on-one client work. My messaging gets to be really super simple and clear because it all focuses around what kind of coach I am and what I bring to coaching relationships. I am not having to think about groups and program launches and all of the rigmarole that goes with that, all of the marketing and the messaging and the positioning for all of that, which always opens up a whole new cascade of planning anytime you're going to launch a group or come up with a new program. So paring down my work to focus just on a core small group of clients has simplified everything. And in this calm, simple sea that I'm sailing in right now, I've noticed 2 different things coming up. So that's what we're going to talk about this week. The first thing is that when things are going well in my life, I think this is kind of a human nature thing, but I definitely see it in my life as well. I look for things I can pick apart. And I think part of that is tied to being trained as a clinician. That is my background. That is my training. It is a mindset that I've done a lot of work around shifting because I've noticed this long before now. But clinicians in particular are trained specifically to look for problems, to look for deficits, to assess a situation and see how the performance lines up against what the expectations would be, or what standard is being produced against the normative sample of the population that we have analyzed. So it's not inherently a bad thing, but I have noticed how that perspective can impact your entire framework for life. I mean, when you are trained to look for how something can go wrong and whether or not it is going wrong, of course that's going to show up in other areas of your life. I also grew up in a medical family. Both of my parents worked with very fragile populations, which again, I think naturally biases them to look for the deficits. So it hit me earlier as I was reflecting on this. If your entire career is based on your skill to accurately diagnose and treat a problem, then it is no wonder why it doesn't feel safe to not have any problems. You wouldn't be needed without them. Problems are necessary when your job is finding them and fixing them. And this is not a new revelation to me. It is something that I have been aware of for quite a while now. In fact, it's something I care so much about, I am actively developing a counterculture to this approach at the university. So I'm a clinical professor at a medical school, and we are actively training the next generation of clinicians. So I have appointed myself as the voice that exists to make sure our students know that it's okay to assess a patient for strengths, not just weaknesses. When I'm supervising our students in the clinic, I point out their strengths and I point out what's working really well. And they know I'm going to focus on that way more than I will ever focus on or talk about what's not going well or what's not working. Because it's not helpful to focus on something that's not working. And if you are going to focus on that, it just creates more attention. And I see students get in their head in the middle of sessions with patients and start catching themselves doing something that they don't think they should be doing. And then they get in this mental loop and it breaks the clinical rapport. So I don't think it's particularly helpful. And it's not how we go through life, working on our weaknesses. It's good to be aware of them to some level, but all of us are used to leveraging our strengths. We use our strengths to compensate for our weaknesses. So all of this to say, despite all of the work I've done around this, I can still see myself looking for faults anytime things are going really well. And I have to still, even with all my awareness, I have to still take the time to manually override the situation, to switch off that automatic response, and to take over the controls of my mind and actively look for everything that's going really well. And the second thing that's coming up for me is I think a part of me is addicted to building things versus running things. So let me explain, like the building phase, the creation phase to me has become a whole lot more rewarding and exciting and fresh and new than the running of things. This podcast is another example of something like that. It was very exciting to think of this idea of a 1-year bet and jump into that and start sharing everything that's going down behind the scenes. And now we're pretty much in maintenance mode. We're just rolling along here and it feels more boring. Like, oh, I have to do something to switch it up. You know, originally when I was building this business, the goal was to build something and then be able to run it. Okay, because building something takes so much more energy than running it. You think about getting a car or a vehicle in motion, that first gear is when it uses up the most fuel, the most energy. It takes a whole lot more energy to go from first gear into second gear than it does to switch into the higher gears once you're rolling along and you've got momentum. Physics are working with you. So I'm someone who has fallen in love with the tough part, with the building process, because smoothly running things almost feel boring to me. I have associated, my brain has associated boring with unmeaningful, right? If something is boring, it can't actually hold any value or meaning. And those two things are not even related. So I think it's a really good idea for me to focus on and pour all my building energy into working with other people, because I can point that very potent energy that I have on someone else rather than on my own life or my own business. So the challenge is, can I let my business be simple? The actual running of my business, can I just let that be simple and not succumb to the urge to change things up just because I'm bored? And now in talking about all of this, a third thought is coming up. I literally hear a thought coming up in my mind. And that's how, like, for lack of a better word, narcissistic do I sound right now on this podcast? That's literally what I'm sitting here thinking. Seriously, what luxury and privilege do I have to just come on here and yammer on about non-existent problems and issues every week? Is this really how I want to spend my time documenting things? It's like, how useful could this really be to someone, Laura? Why don't you share something useful? Truth is, and I think I said something to this effect last week, we're in the boring middle part of this whole experiment. Nothing dramatic is going down. I'm not burning something down. I'm not breaking something down. I'm not having wild revelations left and right that are going to shake your reality. It's nothing like that. It's not dramatic. I'm showing up every single day. I'm taking steps to continue to build a business I'm actually happy to run. And I'm taking steps every day to build a business that supports the exact life I want to lead. There's no point in building something that is unsustainable or something that doesn't allow me the time and the freedom to live my actual life. Which reminds me of an update from last week. Remember how I said we were going to get the fancy Spa Gym membership? I was going to finally give in to my desires of having that thing. I was going to claim it. It was going to happen. Well, after reaching out, it looks like it is a waiting list only situation. And the lady emailed me back and said they're hoping to have room for us by late 2026. So that was a bummer. There you have it. That is the cost of waiting to take action on something. If I had just signed up last year, or when I first had the urge to do this, we would be in a different position. So, quick little update on that. Okay, the last little thing I wanted to talk to you about is how I am planning to wrap up the year. I'm doing an energetic exercise to close out any and all lessons from 2025 before moving into 2026. I'm going to have my one-on-one clients do this as well. It is a process that is designed to help recover any personal power that has been left in situations and events that have already passed. So for me, I want to enter the new year with a completely clean, energetic slate. You know how you get lessons repeated until you learn them? I want to take the time at the end of the year to intentionally reflect on all my lessons, making sure that I have integrated them so that I'm entering the new year with nothing but pure potential and possibility. That is my litmus test. If there is any hesitation or doubt about what might be possible this year, then that is a clear signal that I still have some attachment to an old story about how something used to be. So this is an activity I am very excited to do in this portal of winter transition and going deep. I think it's the perfect time of year to do it. I know that there's always going to be lessons for us to learn. So this is not about avoiding lessons in 2026, but I would like to avoid having lessons on repeat, right? Having those open loop lessons that just keep circling around back to you. I am ready for some new lessons, please. And I also know that you get lessons one of two ways. You can either choose to take your lessons proactively by doing something like this exercise, or you can wait for life to serve you lessons with a big side of pain coming along with it. So this is my way of choosing option one. And next week, it's kind of going to be our last episode before the end of the year. Maybe I'll share some of the lessons. Until then, I'm wishing you all out there an amazing week with lots of space and time to connect with those you love. Now go bet on yourself.